So as you've obviously heard, there was a leaked draft of the majority conservative decision about the case that is currently with the Supreme Court involving Roe v. Wade, and that essentially you have. I want to make sure I get all the justices in there. Can you see them all? Yeah. So no, those are all the ones that it was two. I need to get the. Let me pull up
Right. This was
real
just it.
fast.
I think this is the closest I've seen. I haven't seen a clearer version of it, but nonetheless, this is a copy that Politico obtained, and they
Right.
were able. Politico is one of the top political, reference outlets.
Right.
So this was legit. So people were wondering if this was fake or not, if this was
No,
something
it
made
is
up as part.
legitimate.
And this is how you even know it's real. The Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Roberts, decided to say yesterday a news organization published a copy of a draft opinion on a pending case. Justices circulate draft opinions internally as a routine and essential part of the court's confidential deliberative work. Although the document described in yesterday's reports is authentic, it does not represent a decision by the court or the final position of any member on
Right.
the issues in the case. So this
Right.
is where it further went on from Chief Justice Roberts. He says,
Right.
to this extent, the betrayal of the confidence of the court was intended to undermine the integrity of our operations. It will not succeed. The work of the court will not be affected in any way. We at the court are blessed to have a workforce, permanent employees, and law clerks alike, immensely loyal to the institution and dedicated to the rule of law. Court employees have an exemplary and important tradition of respecting the confidentiality of the judicial process and upholding the trust of the court. This was a singular and egregious breach of that trust, and therefore is an affront to the court and the community of public servants who work here. I have directed the marshal of the court to launch an investigation into the source of the leak.
All right. So a couple of things quickly. So as that stated, this is not the official ruling yet. Again, this is a draft that
No,
was
it's a
leaked out.
draft.
But so far, the decision for this draft was assigned to Alito to write it, and it has Alito, Thomas Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett all in favor.
So
Roberts
all
hasn't made his
six,
decision.
right? So
No, no, no,
the
no,
five
because
top, so
no,
five,
because no, five of them because
five of
Roberts
the right.
hasn't
Yes, he
because
hasn't made
Roberts
his.
isn't hasn't he hasn't figured out yet. Votes apparently change back and forth, but again, we kind of see where this already is and where this is going. Why people obviously are as upset as they are. And, I want to address real quick a comment that Kristen had earlier. She said, I would audit that statement when I said earlier about how it doesn't affect it. She said, as men, you are absolutely affected by it. And I wish more men took inventory of how their lives would be different if women didn't or couldn't access abortions. That's the story I want to hear from men who want to talk about SCOTUS. So what I will say to that point, in the same way that when all of the protests for George Floyd was happening, I gave two shits about what white people had to say. So when I said that, I meant that more in the sense that, yes, there are definite ways in which this affects us as men, of course. But again, with it being directly about like women's like agency for their own bodies and stuff like that, I am very aware, as Kristen and other women have said to me, I'm tired of hearing men want to put in their 2 cents on it and stuff like that. And that's why we really are going to touch this very lightly and some of the things that it can like ultimately lead to. So yes, of course, I know one of the things that has gone around automatically in all of the group chats with men that I've been talking with about this is the situation of you completely have to look at sex 1,000% differently. You can't any minor little things where you're like, okay, well, we're being safe about it. She's on birth control, stuff like that. But in worst case scenario, that's something that an option we could consider. That has completely changed. I've known a number of men that have gone to go get emergency contraception to stockpile. I know that Kristen posted that on Facebook, but I've known a number of men that have decided to keep them themselves just in case of an emergency at this particular point. There's plenty of ways that it affects, but that's my only thing is that I know from my standpoint, I genuinely gave two shits what white people thought when we were protesting. It was time for all the white people to be quiet and to listen. And then if we asked, then it was a situation where it was like, okay, yes, what do you have to bring to the conversation? But at the time, this was 1,000% a situation where as black folk, we needed to speak and we needed to scream and we needed to let that out. So I would never in any form or fashion want to have a situation where I felt like I was putting my voice over a woman that needs to speak out about this right now. It obviously affects us all the same way that police just murdering citizens is going to affect everybody. You know what I'm saying? So there is still something to be lost for folks no matter who you are. But this is something that obviously it is time for us to be the megaphones for women. That's what this is for us to allow women to be on the front lines, to be screaming and shouting, but to not be the ones that are trying to make our voices amplified at that point. If that makes sense. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
I think you and I see this from two different standpoints. And
Sure.
the reason I say it this way is I get exactly where you're coming from in regards to echoing the statements of Kristen and how it goes. I get it. But on this end, for me, I see a lot of my female counterparts in stand up who are speaking out about we've said so much, but the guys who say nothing, their silence is even louder.
I agree with that.
So in these cases with myself, I'm like, yo, where we as men should speak out. This is my belief, and from what I've talked to a bunch of women over the past 8 hours. Number one, a woman's body is not our fucking concern. It's just not.
Whose concern?
Men's.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear the
yeah, that's what I mean.
I
when
heard
I say
the subject.
R,
I didn't hear.
Yeah, when I say R, I mean men's. It's not men's fucking concern.
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah.
I know people have said, I've seen people, and even niggas I've grown up with from the hood, were like, yo, well, what if she get pregnant and want to have an abortion and you want to keep the kid? Yeah, you can be hurt by that. But at the end of the day, you don't carry this child. You don't birth this child. Mm-hmm. If something happens to you, this child goes to her. There are more responsibilities with the child for the mother than there are for you. There are also more health risks and things of the sort for the mother than there are for you. There are women who have had abortions not just because of lack of being safe in sex. There are women who have had abortions because there are health reasons. You know, like if you are older woman who gets pregnant, you are high risk heavily. Heavily. So men, the problem is people keep saying about lawmakers in Congress. I think a lot of people, because of the past 4 years, have forgotten one important thing. The United States government, as fucked up as it is supposed to have this checks and balances system, right? It's this checks and balances system. Supposedly, when laws are made and they're passed by Congress, the ones who enact the laws and can potentially rescind the laws are the Supreme Court. Now, that filibuster shit, we all know how that's been going. Again, I've stated it many times on this show. I hate the fact over the past 8 years almost, we have been so ingrained about politics more than anything else. We become a lot of these other countries in the world. Where back in the day, politics was, yes, shit happened. We know it. We understood shit was happening and things different, in different sects, whether it be federally, on a state level, or local. We always knew it happened, but we let it happen. We didn't allow it to ingrain and just inundate our entire lives.
Yeah.
But this shit has been on the table for so long since dude got in office.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, that's why, and it's funny. People said we were crazy, we were overreacting. We were like, it's one election, give him a shot. Like, it's not as bad as you think. The motherfucker put 3 fucking justices on the court
who have a lifetime appointment.
He put Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. He put all fucking 3 of them on the goddamn court, man. And this is just the beginning, because part of it too that's so interesting it's interesting, but in a fucked up way, of what's going on here. So one of the things that I was reading from the New York Times, that apparently even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, before she was a justice, obviously was in defense of women's right to choose and everything, but the ruling in which they got there was on a shaky foundation that something like this could happen, and then that precedent could be used in other things. I would direct everybody to that article. I will send the link. I don't want to misquote it. But they essentially were kind of talking about that. And one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is how this is now that slippery slope from here straight on to gay marriage. And then from there, further on to trans rights, onto Board versus Brown of Education, interracial marriage. This is literally, unfortunately, you have started pushing a boulder downhill, and it's going to start plowing through shit.
Well, here's the here's I think that is, and I understand where everyone who has said that a lot has come from with that. I think that's the worst case scenario. And again, I say that being, we're watching that last bastion of white supremacy fight for its existence. This is literally what this is. There's no other way to put it, because the
Birth
majority of
control
the
too. Birth
yeah,
control too.
the majority of old white men in power and women who have always had this, white supremacy mindset, they are dying out. And now, they're pushing. Why do you think people are hating that more people from California and New York are moving to Texas? They are hate because why? It is almost about to flip Texas blue, right? So with all these different things. But here's one of the biggest things too, besides this. Again, it has not been official, but I want to make sure we state this. And I want to make sure this is definitely stated. Making abortions illegal does not stop abortions. What it does is stop safe abortions. It stops medically advised and medically directed abortions. You are going to go back to that point where you had those back alley situations where many women's lives are going to be affected. And again, abortions are not always because, damn, we went raw, he didn't pull out, 6 weeks later, I need to get this. That's not all the reason. So I need people to stop that. Also, people who have listened to that orange fuck muppet who made it seem like women have these abortions in their third and final trimester. It does not happen. The only time you would ever have a situation where a baby has is unfortunately
is literally a life or death situation.
It is literally a life or death situation.
No one's doing it just because they're like, I've changed my mind. Like, get the fuck out of here with that. So all that being said, we want to know what your thoughts are. If you're watching this right now in the clips, throw it in the comments. Let us know. We've obviously been seeing the people that are watching the show live right now and the stuff that they're saying and everything. One of the biggest things that I can't stress enough, for any of the ladies, this is just something that I am repeating, like I said, being a megaphone for any of the ladies out there. One of the things that Kristen has been tweeting and posting a lot, which is super helpful. If you haven't already considered going to get whatever said birth control, IUDs, etc., do that. Emergency contraception, you can get them right now relatively cheap on Amazon. Stockpile that, fellas. Stockpile some emergency contraception, not only for the women that you may be intimate with, but if you know somebody that potentially needs something that you can help them out with, you should do that as well. This is a situation where we 1,000% have to look out for our own right now. And so that is the thing that you have to do is because of the state we're in, there are immediate actions that we can take to try and protect ourselves. And we have to do that. And that's all we're going to say about this for now. So
these are friends. These are your friends, fellas. Keep these with you.
So there you go. On Amazon and Costco, $10 for generic Plan B. So definitely go and cop that. Thank you for watching Blerds in the Hood. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. For full episodes, join us every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific over at twitch.tv/Blerds, the letter NTHEHOOD.